We are now live on episode 1. So we are bringing to you a series of videos, which we've called them MindStrong, quite simply because they are strengthening your mind in many, many different ways. But throughout these episodes, we really want to bring some really, really good nuggets. And that's why I've brought, we've brought each other on to this show. We met over Instagram, I think, Scott, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And then, we've become good friends, and, we've got a lot of things that we like together. At the end of the day, we're both into mindset stuff. We're both into training. We're both athletes. So we thought we'd bring this, as a series for you guys to listen to. So first of all, just in this episode, the first one, we're just really going to introduce who we are, what we do, and exactly why we're doing this, which is probably what you're thinking right now. And Scott, before I waffle for too long, I'll hand it over to you and let you introduce yourself, my brother.
Awesome, man. Okay, so what I do is I am a performance mindset coach. I'm a competitive strongman myself, and I've been part of strength sport for quite a while. My background's in sports psychology, but I got into life coaching, mainly working with professionals, specifically in the corporate world, helping them navigate their emotional world and their mindset in order to improve performance in the workplace, managing work-life balance, all of those kind of things. And whilst I enjoyed it, and I love the material, I love the one-on-one personal connection that you build with everyone you work with, and the kind of the intimacy of that, I didn't enjoy the corporate side of things as much, and I wanted to merge my passions. On one hand, I'm an athlete and I'm a strongman, and I'm part of the strength community, and on the other hand, I work with people, performance-driven people every day. So I wanted to merge those two, and now I help athletes master their mindset in order to unlock their potential and optimize performance.
That is one hell of a mouthful.
I like to talk.
But awesome. With what you do, then, why do you feel like it can bring a good structure, if you like, to what athletes need?
Well, I think we both, right off the bat, would acknowledge that the mental health side of sport is becoming more and more mainstream and acknowledged. And I think both of us, fully acknowledge the power of mindset in sport performance. But as it currently stands, I don't think that there has been a specific kind of professional outlet for that as of yet, especially not in strength sports. So I want to offer that kind of clinical setting as a service to athletes, to really help them take things to the next level, and most importantly, which is something we'll get into later, to develop the skills and individual autonomy that they need to really do those things, as I say, master their mindset. So yeah, that's my goal, really.
Yeah, no, I love it. Agree. Awesome. Okay, so just to sort of introduce myself and my background and passion, etc. I've been in strongman now for 2 years, and I've been at a high level for the past 2 years. But prior to that, I've done every single discipline you could really do within the industry. Like, I've been through stages of CrossFit, powerlifting, Olympic lifting. I've done prior to that, I did a lot of, obviously I was in the army prior to that. So when I first came out of the army, I did a lot of boot camp stuff. And yeah, I think I've literally touched everything you could do within the industry. For me, I found such a passion in strength. For maybe it's something that other people can say in the strength sport as well. But I found it because it really challenged me mentally and physically. And that is what I really, truly love about it. And I will stand tall and say it, strongman for me is literally the pinnacle of what you could do within the industry, in my opinion, for that simple reason that you are being tested mentally and physically. So for me, I just love that. I mean, I started getting really serious into strength when I was doing powerlifting, before I did strongman. But then when I came into strongman, I had a good level of strength, which was a good platform to run from for strongman. I just needed to learn the skills. But as I learned the skills in strongman, it just flourished me as such as a flower. But yeah, like it just turned me into, the athlete I am now, because it made me realize that strongman isn't just about being strong. So that's where, for me, that's where the mental side comes into it. Not to badmouth it, but powerlifting just become boring for me. What numbers you're going to hit at comp. You turn up to comp and you hit them numbers. Whereas, like for me, strongman is just a completely different thing. It's a really, big head game.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I think it's great. But for me now, I've got a gym. So I own a gym, which we have just literally rebranded under Serious Strength Gym. We've got, it's a limited spaces gym, because the way that we program everyone, we program them all online, and then they'll have a fob entry at the door to get in, and they follow our programming. We support them through that online, and then obviously there's coaches in the gym as well. But I also run Serious Strength Academy, which is my online platform for strength athletes. So I say strength athletes, it's mainly strong men. However, I do have powerlifters as well, because at the end of the day, the way I program is based around powerlifting anyway. So for me, I'm just like, pushing everything now to try and reach out to as many people as I can. I've got just under 30 athletes that are on my academy at the moment. And for me, really, I don't want to go many more than that. I just want to make sure that they become strong. But the content that we're doing, I've just launched Strength in Your Pocket, which is a education website. That's where I want to reach out to to the rest of the people who want to understand more about how to get stronger, how to, work on the mindset, the food, etc. And the website's got everything that's needed on there. So yeah, for me, it's just about reaching out to as many people as we can and trying to, inspire as many people as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That last point, I think, is for me also the most significant thing. At the end of the day, yeah, there's business, but to me, the reason I wanted to get, merge my passions, as I said before, is because I live for this stuff. I love this industry. I love the community. I love the people. I love training. Yeah, strongman's an awesome sport, and I love being part of strongman. But I'll be honest, if strongman didn't exist, I would probably just love it just as much, just to train and just to be strong and just to aspire to be as great as I possibly can. And that's what we want to bring here. I think we're in agreement when it comes to just the three-dimensional approach to strength, bringing every possible potential avenue to fruition, right?
Yeah,
Talking
yeah.
about mindset in this case, right? This is the goal is to help everyone in the strength community, everyone outside of the strength community, even, to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. The thing is as well, like something I think we can kick this off with, is just what you made me think there, is there's so many obviously different levels of strongmen and strength athletes. You've got your pros, obviously, that are, your big open pros, which are, awesome athletes. You've got all the categories, and then you've got novices, people that are just starting out, everything. And at the end of the day, everybody will benefit from working on themselves, working on their mindset towards, training as well. I think strongman can sometimes have a bit of a meathead approach, where it's a bit like just crack on and do it. But at the end of the day, if you are to work on understanding how your mind works as well as your body, and then you are going to achieve more. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, that is, as you say, something to kind of segue into. That is the main goal here, with our series, is to help people create clarity. Because honestly, I think we can all acknowledge that, mindset is relevant. It's a very subjective term. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to be mentally strong, and talking about kind of the meathead approach, just very like grin and bear it kind of thing. That's, understandably is an approach that a lot of people have, and works for a lot of people. And, every individual will have their own approach, as as is evident, right? But, the goal here is not just to kind of discuss the concept, but to help people enable themselves to understand themselves, to understand how they show up in the world, to understand what they need, right, to be more effective. We're not talking about, bringing awareness necessarily just a mindset, but to help people to master their mindset, right? This is, especially in my business, this is literally what I talk about all the time, which is the goal here is mastery. Just like in training, with your programming, with your execution of your reps and sets, with your recovery, etc. The goal is mastery. The goal isn't just to kind of tick the box. The goal is to create individual autonomy, create awareness for what you need to be mentally optimal, right? And that's what we aim to do.
You said it good to me the other week where you was on about not fixing things, because if someone wants to use the word fix, it's a bit like, it's not like you said the other week, it's not broken. So what you're doing is you're, like you say, mastering it, you're improving it, you're developing it, as opposed to fixing it. Because I think there's a two-sided coin there, isn't there? First of all, if you're trying to fix something, then what is fixed? Because
right,
what does fixed look like to someone? Do you know what I mean? Because it's a bit like, probably going off a little bit track here, but like, I want to win worlds, right? So what do I need to fix to win worlds? The list is endless. But actually, you could probably do that list 4 or 5 different ways and still get to the winning position. So it's a little bit like with the whole fixing things. It's a bit like, first of all, you need to be realistic to sort of say that, can you fix things? Can you think that you can get to the top and be the best? Well, actually, it's about trying to, like you say, master it and develop things to make sure that every day, every week, every month, you are working towards a better you, as opposed to feeling like you are fixing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and as you say, it's a two-sided coin. So immediately when you hear the word fixed, the opposite, a synonym that pops into your head is broken, right? If something is fixed, something has to be broken, because then it needs to be fixed, which ultimately becomes quite a detrimental mindset, because it's very negative, right? And this is,
you're broken, then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is not, and again, this is where the two-sided coin metaphor becomes more relevant. This is not, just to kind of pat yourself on the back and say, oh, everything's perfect and everything's positive, because that's not how this works. Just like if you lie to yourself about what weights you're hitting, you're not really hitting them, so it doesn't, it doesn't matter, right? So there is a fine line to draw between personal accountability, saying, right, okay, there is something I need to bring awareness to and I need to improve, and literally believing that everything is broken and that there is an insurmountable challenge, because that will, there's only so long that you can motivate yourself and dwell on negative kind of mental self-critical energy. That doesn't, it's like trying to run a petrol car on diesel. You might get 50 yards down the road, but you're not getting to the end of the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, the goal really is to create awareness and understanding of what you need. From that point, then, as you say, I want to win worlds, that's the grand goal, right? But if we start with all of these discrepancies, these things that we've noticed, we've had kind of a semi-conscious acknowledgement of, okay, now we're going to systematically bring attention to what is appearing, why it's appearing, and what I need to do to move forward from there. Okay. And that is kind of the order that I would place it in before you go forward. And that is a harder task than it sounds.
Yeah, no,
but certainly a doable one.
Yeah. But as well, though, it's to try and stop categorizing things, isn't it? Because again, like looking back at that broken and fixed scenario, so let's just say, I don't know, my overhead press is the weakest part of my strongman events. Then you're like, so I need to fix that, right? So like you say, if you're on about fixing it, that means it's broken. So you're then telling yourself that it's broken. So let's just say I'm at 100 kg log press at the minute. Now, if I don't move off that 100, I'm continuously broken. So you're telling yourself, aren't you? You're categorizing it to say that is your broken area. And then before you know it, it feels heavier, because like heavier on your mind, because you're thinking that I'm not progressing from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the use of language is extremely important, which is why, we drew attention to this idea of broken and fixed. if we use your example of the log, like we're already, if we consider like, yeah, okay, it's a weakness. This is objective reality, right? And we have to acknowledge this. This is where personal accountability comes in. Yes, objective reality. My log is my weakness. Fair enough, right?
Mm.
But if, as you say, if it phrases itself in a way such as, I'm terrible at overhead, that's a very different thing, right? That is now a directed, pointed self-judgment that has longer spanning implications, because not only does it give credence to the reality, which is right now, my overhead isn't the best, right?
Yeah.
But it also indicates that in the future, it will continue to be so, right?
Yeah.
I am terrible at overhead. It sounds as if it's a fact. It's a belief that's been ingrained. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you take that athlete, you put him in comp. There's an overhead event. That's the first thing they're thinking walking into the overhead event. I'm terrible at overhead. So how do you think they're going to perform against, let's say, Joe Schmo, who thinks he's awesome at overhead? And it's the most basic thing, right? And people who are watching and they're kind of like, well, of course, if I go in and I say, you know, I suck at this, I'm not going to do well at it. But you'd be amazed at the amount of people who ingrain those things subconsciously over and over again for years on end, and it never changes.
Yeah. Thing is, though, it is so powerful, and people need to understand how powerful that actually is. You know, because at the end of the day, again, the whole reason we're doing this is because the mind and the body is so connected. Well, it is connected. It's the same thing, but the actual, you know, the function of them both work together so simultaneously that if one's broke, then probably you're not going to be able to, you know, be as well forward with it. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I think like last year I went for the world record deadlift in the under 90s. And this is like a personal story, like a bit interesting though. Like I went for the world record deadlift. The first time I went, my prep was awesome. It went to plan. Everything felt light. And I was using some old straps that were just the single long ones. Mm-hmm. And as I got it to like mid thigh, my right strap snapped. Like it ripped, but it ripped enough to then pull the weight out. Obviously, it's 365 kg, so it's not really going to go down like slow. And I was fighting it, and then I had to let go of it because it literally ripped, and I was literally devastated. However,
understandably,
literally, honestly, man, like, but then I went for it again. I changed my straps and then went for it again, but I obviously didn't get it. I was just zapped. I went for it another, what was it, like, I don't know, 10 weeks after. And I had that in my mind all the time. And then obviously I had figure of 8 straps on this time round, but because my prep hadn't gone so well and I was still beaten up from not getting the last one, I knew it wasn't going to plan. I picked my mate up who was supporting me and, you know, doing my suit and everything. And I went for the attempt, didn't get it at all, didn't get it off the floor. And it just went completely like down the drain. I spoke to Mark afterwards, my mate who was with me, and he was like, I knew you weren't going to get that today, because he said, I could just see, as soon as you picked me up this morning, you weren't ready for it. And again, it's all because, and I know it was my mind. It was my mind because it's because I felt beaten. Do you know what I mean? I let that take over me.
Exactly, yeah.
As opposed to fighting it.
Right. And I, you know, I have to say, I love the deadlift. I think the deadlift is the best metaphor for like mindset and strength performance, because it literally is just, it either comes off the ground or it doesn't. And you see so many instances, as you described, right, where, you know, for whatever reason, you couldn't budge the weight. Logically, as you say, is there any reality that would mean that you, other than an injury, that you couldn't budge a weight that you got to your knees, you know, 8 weeks prior? Probably not, right? And yet that's the way it went. And your friend was, you know, kind of clued into the energy on that day, you know, that was indicative of you not making the lift even before you did. And it's something as simple as the strap. That's an equipment malfunction, right? Something that's extremely controllable. As frustrating as it is, it's something that you could easily say, right, here we go. Next deadlift attempt, you best believe I'm wearing 1,000+ pound rated figure 8 straps that are made of titanium. I'm not going to, you know, there's no way I'm letting this happen again. But as soon as that attempt happened, it was no longer about the straps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
then, and I'll be honest, and I don't want to be too kind of forthcoming with this, but that whatever you ingrained in your mind, your body, the moment you missed the lift, was sitting with you for every single session of that prep, which
Yeah.
is probably why it didn't go well, right?
Yeah. It's completely true. But you know what? When I look back now, I shouldn't have gone for it. I wasn't ready for it. Funny enough, actually, trying to think which way around it was now, but Leo was born. I can't remember if it was before or after. I should really remember, but yeah, I can't remember which way around it was. I had worlds coming up. It was completely the wrong time. But you know, when you're obviously in the moment and trying to go for it, you think your head's screwed on. But for me, I just learned that everything has to be perfect for things like that, because again, it was all the mind. It wasn't the body, because why was I stronger a couple of weeks before that? Do you know what I mean? It shows that it was the mind. It was that, in like you say, whatever's ingrained.
Right, exactly. And it's another reason why strength performance and just athletic performance in general is a really amazing demonstration of how the mind and the body work in synergy, right? Because in other areas, you can very clearly see when it's an emotional block or a mental block, because you get up in front of an audience to speak and all of a sudden you don't speak. You're consumed by fear of failure or whatever it might be. That's quite clear that it's mental, right? But as you just described, there's food, there's supplements, there's training programming, there's huge impact. Was it the mind, was it the body, was it both? Well, so I think that's why it's so important to create more understanding and awareness of how behavior affects performance, because then you can actually kind of decipher that code a little bit. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, but this is the thing, isn't it? And that's what hopefully people will take away from this, is just to try and, I guess, like, understand the connection of your body. Because the more people work on themselves, and the tough thing is as well, I know that you hear this all the time, don't you? Work on your mind, work on yourself, blah blah. Sometimes I think people just get a little bit fed up with it, and I get it, because you can probably hear it too often. But there is a
Yeah.
few, and I don't mind sharing them what I do, and I'm sure you will what you do as well. But there is a few, like, quite simple things that you can do day to day that will just improve your mind and will improve how you function, how you perform, etc. On that note, have you got anything that, let's share our things that we do, but what do you do daily to sort of like stay, on track with your mind and stay alert and everything else?
Okay, well, yeah, the first thing I'll address your kind of the first point is that, yeah, I definitely do feel that people hear this a lot, but they hear a lot of just like generic statements, really, which, and I'm not here to scoff at those, but I'm just here to say that there's a lot more to it than that, and as I say, it's kind of a constant war of attrition to master your day-to-day presence. And it's not going to be the same. You're not going to be showing up in the same way every single day. It doesn't matter if you are, an average person or the Dalai Lama. You're just not. You're a human. You're fallible. You are constantly bombarded by different stimulus that will, arise in an emotional response, especially now, right, in the current time. But the best thing that you can do, and it sounds simple, is make a conscious effort to tune into those things. And again, sounds very simple, sounds almost too simple, right? But this is not a fix. It's not it's not necessarily even a change. It's simply, you actually take responsibility for how you are showing up in the world at any given moment. And if you notice something, you notice how you react to something, you notice how the kind of words you use, the kind of sensations you feel in your body. Do I have a pit in my stomach right now when I'm watching the news? Why is that? What is it about this, news headline that's getting under my skin so much? Ask these questions of yourself, and a lot of people struggle to do that. And, understandably so, because it's bloody scary, The world is a crazy place, and you want to just get by most of the time, right? So my short answer is to tune in bit by bit to how you're showing up in the world. How am I responding? Why am I responding like that? Why does this make me so happy? Why does this make me feel so angry? And so on. Try and draw little connections, play a little game in your mind to try and get to know yourself a little bit better. And as I say, this takes a long time. It's not something that comes to you naturally. This is just in your day-to-day, right? And then when you go to performance, you go to, you're okay, I'm in the gym. This is my pre-workout ritual. This is my post-workout ritual. Check in on those things as well, right? So that would be my answer, is consistent conscious awareness to your behavior.
Yeah. Well, mine actually, what I'll say as a top thing, if you like, in my mind, it marries over to yours very well. But I'd say, like, for me, it's about and first of all, I agree with what you're saying. Like, definitely, I think what you've just said there, some people can go, it sounds a bit airy fairy, and then they go, oh, I'll do it. Do you know what I mean? But I think you've got to just actually do them sort of things, haven't you? You've got to actually force yourself to do it, because if you with your mindset, if you think, oh, I can't be bothered to do that because it sounds airy fairy, then you're never going to master your mind. One of the things that I used to do, very similar to what you just said, just quickly, is I used to write down how I feel. So I'm like, what you're saying there is, in like, think about it, write down as well. So at first it was a bit weird, and it did make me feel like this is a bit airy fairy, but actually, like, after a while, you start to realize patterns that happen. So
yes, that's huge. Yeah, 100%. I really like that. Yes, and that is a phenomenal, kind of first thing to do. And writing and thinking, they go hand in hand. It's the next step, really, isn't it? You do a little voice note to yourself, or you write down whatever you're feeling. And patterns, absolutely essential, right? Because behavior is never isolated. It's always connected to something else. There's always a trigger that leads to a stimulus that leads to whatever else, right? And these, remember, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the iceberg diagram that displays the levels of consciousness, right? The unconscious is an ocean, right? And the vast majority of the things that are going to lead you to respond in ways you might understand are in that ocean. Okay. So you imagine yourself now, and it can be airy fairy to some, but this is why it's a challenge. You figure out a way that is palatable to you. Okay. Imagine you're now in your submarine with your big headlamps on, going around looking, saying, okay, that's something that's interesting. I didn't notice that before. Right. Because now you have a little bit more control, and without making too bold a claim, you will start to see how that pays off in your life. You can experiment in your relationships, in your work. I always try to stress is to respond rather than react. So to take a moment between blurting out the first thing that comes into your mind, or doing the first thing that comes into your mind, processing, then reacting in a way that's a little bit more representative of what's happened. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine then, that I'll sort of say, is really like understand, like, your routines of what you do, and I'm talking more like the physical routines. So, for example, as little as it is, how do you go to bed? Like, the things that you do before you go to bed. Are you sitting on your phone, like, mooching through Facebook and, I don't know, getting wound up by things or whatever you're doing? Because that's going to result in a bad sleep. And then in the morning, what do you do when you get up? I've got my bike, if you can see it behind me. I bought it in lockdown just because the weather was crap, and normally I go out for a walk in the morning, listen to a podcast or music or whatever, but now I do it in here. So I just pedal for half an hour. It's not for the fitness, it's more literally for the mindset. But again, that's my routine. Like, I'll get up, I'll get that window before Leo starts screaming and wants his milk. But I will come in here, have half an hour, listen to some podcasts, music, whatever I feel like listening to, and just have a half an hour of a pedal. Then I'll get the kids up, then we'll go have breakfast, and then after we have breakfast, I will then make my food. and everything's routined. And at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know if it's an army thing or not, but I just love to have that routine and that structure. Literally right behind this laptop here, I've got on my wall. It's all color coded, like what I do every day. And you could probably say it's OTT. And I've also had points where it has driven me into being too rigid, and feeling like I'm just a slave to myself. But I've come away from it, and I've come back to it again at another point, and I respect it more now, because the things that I have on there are my guidelines. They're not my must do's.
Yeah.
I've got red things that are my must do's. The rest of them are different colors, and they're my guidelines of what I should, or what I need to be doing daily. But for me, like, the routine is massive, man. Like, without the routine, without respecting your time, and when I say time, is your work time, your downtime, like on there, I've got points that I've just put in the thing, fun time, and again, for me, that's a big part. Like, I bought a racing car, a little remote control car not long ago. And that's my little, like, outlet sort of thing. And that's what I do in my fun time, So yeah,
Right.
like, I think, from my angle, I think that the routine sort of thing is massive. The time you prep your food, the time you, I don't know, sit in a sauna, the time you have hot baths, the time you train, all these different things. It's so important to build that positive mindset and to keep, progressing forward.
Absolutely. I think that's, a phenomenal point. I mean, we as, strength athletes, but I think all athletes are kind of dictated by routine that is very self-imposed as well. It's not like you have your boss telling you if you don't eat your meal. Well, maybe you have your coach, but if you're not going to get penalized, you're going to run out of money if you don't eat your meal when you need to, or you don't train when you need to, because for most of us, it is more of a hobby and a lifestyle than a career, right? So you kind of naturally ingrain that routine pattern, and I think structure is incredibly important. But also, you raised the point about the fact that you have all of these things that are really positive for you, right? You balance work and training and downtime, fun time, right, in a way that is kind of mutually productive. But then you mentioned also that you can you've noticed in the past that you sometimes become somewhat of a slave to your routine, and it can actually become counterproductive. Now, the reason I wanted to touch on that is the same goes for behavior, and it kind of relates back to my previous point about awareness, which is why you need to constantly do this. It's not something you do once and you check in 8 weeks down the line. It's something you do constantly, because even productive behaviors that seem productive can then become counterintuitive. Even destructive processes that would seem to be destructive can have their place at times, right? And this is kind of common sense. But so when you look at yourself and, okay, my routine's getting a little restrictive now, it's getting kind of crazy, I need to dial that back. Okay, start asking yourself these questions now. What is it that I actually need? Why am I dialing it up to such a great degree? And I use this metaphor about dialing behavior up and down, right? So a question I'll ask you then is, let's assume, a behavior is considered universally positive, right? So let's say being very productive, doing a lot of stuff, that's a very, considered a positive behavior, right? But as you described, it can become counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So if you were to listen to your favorite song at 10 times the volume that you normally would listen to it, would you like it so much?
No.
Somewhat of a leading question. No. Right? Probably not. So you naturally turn the volume down to a degree in which it was your favorite song again. It was enjoyable. It wasn't just noise.
Yeah.
Exact same logic applies to behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I knew exactly where he's going with that, and I agree. Yeah. Yeah. It's just fine tuning it, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if you think that, well, it's a little bit like pointing from the hip. I'm doing this because my mate told me to. Now you've got to ask you if it's working for you, or is it worth doing, and do you need to change it?
Right.
That thing, isn't it?
Right. And then what is the compulsion, driving you to do it because your mate's telling you it's good?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, how do I, you know, make those kind of value judgments as well?
But it's something so often people do, isn't it? Why are you taking this supplement? Because my mate is, and he's ripped. Okay.
Oh yeah, I think we could go down a whole other road on that
Yeah.
on that front, man.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
on that bombshell, the alarm just went off, and we've got to stick to the time because it is called MindStrong in 30 minutes for that reason.
Yeah,
But
MindStrong
mate,
in 33 minutes doesn't sound quite as
yeah,
good.
exactly. It doesn't quite go. We'll have to change the marketing.
Yeah,
But Scott, it's been awesome, man. I'm sure you'll agree.
absolutely, man.
For the guys who are watching, stay tuned for the next one. We have got building resilience in general and in today's climate. So we're going to tap into, resilience in general. And then we're looking at, ultimately like what's happening at the moment. Like it's COVID right now. And, even if people watch this later on down the line, it's still going to play true to their life at that point because we're talking about general as well. But it's been a pleasure. Scott, I will love you and leave you, and I'll catch you on the next episode, my man.
Awesome, man. All right, take care.
Cheers, buddy.